What is a seemingly mundane question you can ask somebody that will tell you a lot about their personality? My father-in-law went on a job interview about 10 years ago and absolutely nailed it. As he was being shown around the office, a high-level person in the company who normally wasn't there just happened to be in that day. After they were introduced, he asked my father-in-law what kind of animal he would be. My father-in-law said he panicked and picked a bear, because he's a bigger guy. And the other guy said something along the lines of, "That's a little too aggressive. Maybe this job isn't for you." So he didn't get the job. But I guess it worked out because he's got a pretty good job now, and if I was him, I wouldn't want to work for someone who hires people based on what animal they think they would be. The right answer was, I'd be a parasite that lives in your eye and eats away your optical nerves. Oh, you sound like you'd be good in management. What are some very small, completely inconsequential things that absolutely piss you off? I once had a delightfully angry conversation with someone about those weak-ass hair dryers that only blow for 3 seconds in public restrooms. Do you put the cart back when you're done shopping? I put my cart away, but seriously, whether someone puts their carts back really shows you what they think about rules, social norms, and whether they will follow them when someone isn't looking or judging them. It's really interesting. It's called the shopping cart theory. Yep, it's probably about as close and the safest way to observe a lawless world where people are entrusted to make good decisions on their own. There is no penalty in not putting the cart back, and there's no upside to returning it. It shows a lot about a person's morals on if they're willing to do the right thing for nothing in return. It's not a single question, but by the second or third date with a guy, I would ask him to go bowling. As it turns out, there are many ways to play the game. Do they take it too seriously? Get competitive, or angry if they don't do well? Does he act disinterested or bored of the game? Do they try to teach me how to play, or do they just try to be goofy and have fun with it? Do they order 2 pitchers of beer and get totally smashed? In my opinion, you can learn a lot about a person by the way they approach bowling. Where can I find a girl like this? God, I love bowling, but no one ever wants to go. Do you like cats? I have found that people who do not like cats are not prepared to spend any time getting to know an animal, so are possibly less open or empathetic. Many dogs will be friends with anyone. I know my old dog was, and many cats want to learn whether you are trustworthy first. Plus, each animal has its own personality, so whether you will be great friends or just acquaintances depends on this. And most people prejudiced against cats are not going to spend time learning about that cat, or what it likes, nor about basic cat behavior and nonverbal communication. If an animal won't adapt and communicate in human ways, those people just won't make an effort. I see it as a personality flaw. To add, cats actually teach their owners with boundaries more than dogs. If a cat doesn't want to be touched, you gotta respect that, or they will either bite you, or stop you with their paws. My cat, while he will demand cuddles and attention, clearly tells me when he doesn't want it and wants to spend time alone, usually scratching his boxes. Enjoy with caution. My boyfriend kept saying that he loves cats and that animals are his Achilles heel. He grew up with cats in a house for years. I believed him. We have been together for over 2 years now and have had cats of our own for a few months. But when I saw how he sometimes deals with the animals, I had my doubts. He never did anything bad to the cats, but often addressed them with insults instead of names. Often got on the cat's nerves and didn't always respect the animal's boundaries, like carrying them to bed, even though the cats didn't want to. He makes the cat's silence threatening when they mess up, and he ignores them when he's mad at the cats. When the cat meows and wants to play, he's usually too busy and chooses to ignore it rather than attend to the cat's needs. But weeks later, he'll say to me, "We should take care of the cats more." He also told me how not to grab the cat because I've never had any before, only to do it himself afterwards, despite saying it was not good for the animal. I often think if he loves me like he loves the cats, then I'm out. Just because someone says they love animals doesn't mean they know what love is. The question is good, but don't listen to their words. Watch their behavior. It's always good advice to listen to what people do over what they say, because listening to their honeyed words is how you get trapped in a manipulative relationship. What do you think happens after death? To me, it's a lighthearted question because I only have lighthearted things to say about what happens after death. But the question reveals a lot about someone's personality. And this would also reveal an aspect of your personality if you see it as too heavy or too deep of a question. I've shared this before, but I feel it's pretty relevant and a great way to find out more about a person. Years ago, I went on a first date with this girl I met online. I thought she was very attractive, and we had so much in common that I thought she was perfect. In addition to that, we seemed to hit it off through texts, so I figured the date would go well. So we went to this bar, and she suggested that we play a game of people watching, where we try to make up backstories for other people there. I thought it sounded fun, especially since I played a similar game with friends on the train sometimes. Plus, it felt like a good icebreaker to get us talking. Well, she managed to take all the fun out of the game by being ridiculously cruel in all her assumptions for no real reason at all. It felt like she was projecting issues she had onto these poor people. Like one guy was sitting at the bar alone. He could have been waiting for someone, you never know, but because he was alone, she said he was a loser with no friends that hates his life. I tried to steer the game back to a more lighthearted mood, but she was set on being mean. Completely killed the mood, and after that, I lost all interest in her. I just couldn't see myself going on a second date with someone like that, even if she checked all the boxes. However, I did learn that it's a dumb and usually fun game that you can use, which will really tell you a lot about a person and how well you're going to get along with them. Their perspective on mental health. It's not about whether they experience issues, it's about how they think of their own well-being, other people's well-being, empathy, self-care, support, etc. My go-to question is, if you wanted someone to know one thing about you, what would it be? So far, people are usually so shocked by the question that I just get a rather generic answer. Something like, I'd want people to know and understand my humor, or I'd want people to know I'm kind, that sort of thing. I was asked this question originally in an interview, and I also gave a real generic answer like that too. It carries a lot of depth to it, and it's more about how they respond than what the response is. Did they take the time to think about such an important question, or did they just throw out the first thing that popped into their heads? It can help show how serious they're taking the conversation, for example, which, in turn, can show how serious or interested they are in you. My favorite question I heard in an interview. What would you do if you came home and found a penguin in your freezer? It ends up not only being an icebreaker, but a good personality tell. Name him Pen Pen. African or European penguin? Is no one concerned if the penguin is dead or alive? Ask about astrology. Guys usually find it to be quite dumb, but if he at least humors you, it's a good sign. But if he's immediately dismissive and puts you down for asking, well... Also, pay attention to his policy on tipping, who should receive them and what's a fair amount to pay. What was the last thing you did that gave you childlike joy? My 14-year-old asked for a longboard last spring. I said no before because I figured it'd be something I'd spend a few $100 on that she'd try once, not be good at right away and never touch it again. It wouldn't be the first time. After being locked up for 2 months with quarantine, I figured, why not? It gets her outside and maybe something she'll enjoy. At that point, I just wanted to get her out of her room and off her phone. I'd never seen her work so hard at something she wasn't good at right away. After 2 back-to-back 6-hour days of practicing, she started to get the hang of it and asked me if I wanted to try. I couldn't even stand on a board when I was a kid, but as an adult, I just kinda got it. I wasn't on it for 5 minutes and I said, dang, I need one. We left right then and picked one up for myself. We cruised all spring, summer, and fall. Not only was it great for bonding, I hadn't felt that kind of joy since I was little. A moment that, frankly, I'll never forget. Can't wait for the snow to melt. My go-to is to ask, what is something that fascinates you? This question is good at getting to what interests people and determining if we have things in common and if they're more creative or analytical. Sometimes I find people who aren't fascinated by anything. Ooh, this one I really like. It's a nice twist on your standard, so what do you do for fun question. Last time I asked that, I got 2 people telling me about their jobs that, when I asked if they like their work, both said some variation of, "It's alright." Though to be fair, this in and of itself could be a good way to determine if someone is a person you'd even want to be around, or if they're only going to be an acquaintance or a party friend. It's not quite mundane, maybe, but I like the classic 90s question, "What's your plan for the zombie apocalypse?" This gives you a bit of insight into their creativity, practicality, and seriousness. Extremely serious people, for instance, don't answer this one. They'll just brush it off. My current partner's answer was to set up a trap for intrepid hero types to come rescue them, only to find out that the only prize was they had zombified themselves. What's your hobby? It's the easiest question ever, and you can judge so much on it. I recall a hiring manager telling me about an applicant who listed football, baseball, and basketball as his hobbies. When queried about this, it became clear that his hobby was actually sitting on the couch and watching football, baseball, and basketball. In a job interview, ask your prospective supervisor how much vacation time and sick days they took last year. This is great because both extremes take pride in their answer, and so will usually answer honestly. The no or low vacation time boss is proud of how hard he or she works, but really, it's bad if they don't take time off. They're coming in when they're sick, they're not recharging by taking vacation, and the expectation, even if unstated, is that their staff should follow their example. You'll feel guilty every time you call in sick or take vacation time. You want the boss who says, "I always take my vacation time and encourage my staff to do so as well. I called in a couple times last year when I came down with a cold too." Those are good bosses. What's your favorite dinosaur? In my last year of college, I took a prehistoric history class and was loving it. I commuted by light rail train to school and would end up spending the hour or so on the train congregating with other history majors. One day, I asked this group, "What's your favorite dinosaur?" Most of the people gave answers like velociraptors, or that they hadn't really been interested in dinosaurs since they were kids, which was fair enough. Oh, but one guy said, "I don't believe in dinosaurs," and that the Earth was 6,000 years old. This was a guy that was studying history for the sake of teaching children history, and he was denying that most of the Earth's history didn't exist, despite learning otherwise in the classes that he was specializing in. I lost a lot of respect for him that day, and now having a favorite dinosaur is a barometer test of mine. It all depends on what you want to know about the person. With a question like, "What is your favorite childhood memory?" you will know quickly if they had a pleasant childhood or not, and their relationship status with their family. Tell me what you want to know about someone, and there is a question that will flush out that answer. Like, tell me about your first job. If they're 23 and never had a job, they're most likely either an athlete or privileged. Yes, very broad assumptions, but this is important information to know in my world. Okay, now we move on to the rapid fire segment of the video. 4 stories too short to make a full entry out of, but too good to be left out. Let's jump in. What's the last thing you did for the first time? How many times have you watched Shrek? A good follow-up question is, how many times have you watched Shrek 2? What book would you like to live in? This is a tough one for those of us who like dystopia and historical fiction. Are you in favor of homeowners associations? I had a TA in a get-to-know-you activity ask me what my vision was for a perfect world. I said round. What kind of music do you like? If you could have any one superpower, what would it be? Flight for me, all day long. What household seasoning would you like to be? What charity would you donate to and why? Does Mike Wazowski blink or wink? As a kid, what was your go-to selection from the ice cream truck? What kind of cheese they think they would be based on their personality? What's something you wish you could do again for the very first time? So guys, that's it for today. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe if you made it this far. I'm ReddList. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time.